From south to north, the big monuments are along the cemetery ridge. And way up that way to your left, there's a couple of little white buildings out there in front of the tree line. That tree line, that's the cemetery hill. Then the Union line curves off to the right to Culp's Hill. Where's that one? In the foreground, there's a monument down here with an eagle on top of it. Way back behind it, that's Culp's Hill way out there. The air is clear enough this morning, you can actually see the top of an observation tower above the tree line. That's the Union line. Down at this end of the Union line, back there in the grassy area behind the barn in the low ground, were some 8,000 men in the Union Army's 3rd Corps. They were under the command of a guy named Daniel Sickles. Good old Dan, as we like to call him, did not go to West Point like most of the others. He was a Democratic congressman out of Manhattan, belonging to a place called Tammany Hall. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tammany Hall, but it was the power center of corrupt politics in New York. Of course, that's probably redundant. In any event, General Sickles is back there looking at how the ground rises up to the speech orchard, and he's thinking, this looks like pretty good high ground. I think I want to be here. So, even though it's against orders, and it clearly was against orders, he moved his men forward. So he's got about 4,000 men from here northward along the road, all stretched all the way down there with that red barn way out that way off to the left, sharp left. The 3 little white steeples on top of it. And another 4,000 men from here to the bottom of the big round top into that rough piece of ground the farmers called the Devil's Den. They called it the Devil's Den because it's too rough to cultivate down there.
Okay.
And over time they told stories about the wild and dangerous animals down there, you know, like rabbits and deer. And the snakes in the rocks, and the one old devil snake that hid in his den nobody could ever capture. Why are they telling stories like that? To keep you out of there, that's why.
So we do have that.
That's all it is. So it's something that the soldiers knew. In any event, at that moment, there's only half a dozen Union soldiers up there on Little Round Top Signal Station. It's around 1:30 when General Meade has decided to have a conversation with Sickles about disobeying orders. So he and his men are riding along the ridge to go have a talk with the general, who's down by the barn here in the low ground. And as they're riding along the ridge, they begin to hear artillery fire coming from the Confederate line back there, and it's focused on this area. At that point, General Meade turned to one of his men, a fellow named Warren. General Warren, get up on that little rocky hill and find out what's going on. So Warren and his people ride off and get up on Little Round Top, and he can see right away what's going on. He sees the Union line out here, out of position. He sees the Confederates lining up on the ridge back there, about ready to make their attack. He sees the 5th Army Corps coming down the road to reinforce the area. And he sees those 6 Union soldiers up on that hill and nobody else. And he realized right away that hill needed to be defended because it's a good piece of real estate, good high ground. So he sent a couple of his men down the hill to stop the column of soldiers coming down the road. Where's the general? We got to talk to the general. You know, you always go to the top. Where's the general? And the colonel at the head of the column says, I don't know where he is. He's up in the smoke somewhere. What's the problem? We need people up on that hill right now. So this colonel says, okay, I'll talk to the general later. I'll just take my people and off we go. So he'll turn around his 1,400 men and go back down the road. And they'll be coming up over the top of Little Round Top from the back side because there was a timber trail back there. And by this time, the attack has started. Alabama people down through the low ground into the smoke actually got lost and wound up on top of the big round top. Texas boys find their way down through the low ground and they attack the Devil's Den. They overrun it. They saw all those Union soldiers. They push them all out of there. Now they're sitting on top of the Devil's Den, and what are they doing? They're looking up at Little Round Top, and it hurts for them. That's good high ground. We need to be there. So they will begin their attack, and there's actually a trail going up the face of Little Round Top toward that castle monument that tells us that's about where the Texans were making their approach. But just as they're about a third to a half of the way up the hill, you got these 1,400 Union soldiers coming over the top. It's literally one of those just-in-time moments. So now there's a whole storyline about the attack and defense of Little Round Top. And, you know, you can find a book on anything around here. There are multiple books about this fight. So Georgians then are following the Texans. They're going to get into the valley at the bottom of Little Round Top. They'll call that the Valley of Death. There's a place at the bottom of the Big Round Top. They'll call that the Slaughter Pen. There's a good name. The stream that runs through there, they'll call that the Bloody Run because it literally turned red with all the bloodshed. Crazy out there. Today, it's kind of tough to see that because apparently a few years ago, some beavers moved in, and the superintendent happens to like beavers. So the little stream is now buried under a lake. Yeah, none of us like that. So we call it Lake Mead. Yeah, to be short. Don't let this get back to the superintendent. Yeah. Okay, so we got South Carolina people coming through the farms down here too. Some of them will spin off and go into a wheat field behind this first tree line back here. That wheat field between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock changed hands 6 times in 2 hours. And by the time it's over, just in the wheat field alone, 4,000 men have been shot down. North and south, dead and wounded, piled on each other. And were we to go down there and walk across the field, figuratively speaking, we would not be stepping on the ground. We'd be stepping from one body to the next. It's crazy down there. One man later wrote that the gun smoke down there was so thick, he couldn't see 50 feet in front of his face. What's 50 feet? Huh? The tree back there, maybe? Yeah, it's not much. It's crazy out there. South Carolina people are going to come through the farm to attack the peach orchard from there. At the same time, Mississippi Confederates are coming from over there. Which way do you shoot? Shoot that way, you're open here. You shoot this way, they're going to get you from over there. This is a bad place to be. And it's somewhere around 7 o'clock where the Union line is going to fall apart right here first. It's going to be a fighting retreat across these fields back to where they started that morning. By the time it's over, the fields out here are littered with thousands and thousands of dead and wounded men everywhere out here. The fighting works its way all the way up the road to that red barn I mentioned earlier. All Union people are getting pushed off the field to back up onto the ridge. Yeah. And while that's all going on, there's more stuff happening. Some of the men over on Culp's Hill were ordered to get off that hill out that way and come down here to help out. So 8,000 men left that hill, leaving about 1,500 Union defenders up there on the hill. And around 7 o'clock, 5,000 Confederates attacked Culp's Hill. Fortunately, the men up on that hill had the foresight to dig a little trench. Piled up the dirt and stone in front of them, cut down trees, put the logs on the berm. So those 1,500 defenders were well protected. They managed to hold on to the top of the hill through the night. So it's going to die out around here around 9 o'clock because they don't know what daylight savings time is. But think about it, all the men out here on these fields, shooting stops when it gets dark. Men are out here crying in the pain, calling out to their wives or their mothers, saying their last prayers. And then after dark, when it gets really quiet, now you can hear the wild pigs out here feeding on the body. Imagine being so badly injured you can't defend yourself. That's how bad it is out here. How we doing on time? Hey.
Ladies.